The neon lights of Las Vegas twinkled like distant stars as Tim McCoy, his sister Lisa King, and her boyfriend Kenneth Kennedy stepped out of the elevator. November 11, 2023, was supposed to be a night of simple pleasures. Dinner at a nice restaurant and a stroll through the famous Fremont Street Experience. They had just parked their silver Hyundai Sonata in the garage, their laughter echoing in the concrete space as they discussed where to eat first. But as the elevator doors opened to the ground floor, their evening shattered. Several city marshals surrounded them, their faces hard and voices aggressive. The friendly atmosphere evaporated, replaced by tension thick enough to choke on. They approached me very hostile, fingering my face, saying, "What are you doing here? What happened back there? Why did you make those hand gestures?" McCoy would later tell KTNB. His confusion was genuine. "I was very confused. I'm like, what hand gestures are you referring to?" These weren't troublemakers looking for drama. They were three black professionals with deep respect for law enforcement. Their own aunt had served as police chief in Cleveland, and other family members had military backgrounds. They believed in the system, trusted the uniform. When the officers didn't like their answers, the trio decided to walk away. McCoy pulled out his phone to check the football score, thinking the strange encounter was over. The morning light of realization hadn't yet dawned on him, that this was just the beginning of his nightmare, that the coming hours would change how he saw his city, his country, and his place in both. The attack came from behind without warning. Just as the first morning light creeps over the horizon, sudden and inevitable, several officers tackled McCoy violently. His body slammed against the concrete, the impact knocking the air from his lungs. His phone skittered across the floor, the football game still playing to no one. Officers had their firearms and tasers drawn, as if this man enjoying a night out with family was a dangerous fugitive. But the worst was yet to come. As they pinned him down, they tore at his hair, ripping out several of his locks in the process. One officer put a knee directly on his hair while another cuffed him. "It made me feel like an animal," McCoy would say later, the memory fresh and raw. His sister Lisa watched in horror, her screams echoing through the garage. "Stop. He didn't do anything. You have the wrong person." But the officers continued their brutal work, as if McCoy's blackness itself was the crime they were responding to. The cultural significance of his locks, the years of care and personal meaning, meant nothing to them as they used his hair as leverage to restrain him. Kennedy tried to intervene, his voice rising in panic and anger. "What are you doing? We just came here for dinner." The morning light of understanding began to break through for the family. This wasn't about any crime McCoy had committed. This was about the color of his skin, about being in the wrong place at the wrong time while black. In the cold morning light of realization, McCoy found himself handcuffed and paraded down Las Vegas Boulevard to where the patrol car waited. The glittering lights of the city seemed to mock his humiliation as officers forced him to stand exposed to public view. Lisa and Kennedy followed closely, their protests growing more desperate. "You have wrongly battered and detained Mr. McCoy," King shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. "What car are you even looking for? Tell us what the suspect drove."
케너디즈 보이스 커트스루 더 커시노 사운즈즈.
"Oh, because he's a black man and he was just the first one you saw, huh?" The truth of his words hung in the air, undeniable and painful. "It could have been me. It could have been anybody." But Marshal Guzman, one of the officers involved, dismissed their concerns with a phrase black people have heard too many times.
대초유 가이즈도.
"You play the race card," he said. "It's not about that. It's about committing crimes." The irony was as bright as the morning sun. The man who had just committed violence against an innocent person was accusing others of crimes. Guzman himself faced two other civil lawsuits from Nevada citizens alleging excessive force, unlawful detention, and assault during traffic stops. As the morning light grew stronger, so did the family's understanding of the system they were up against. This wasn't one bad officer. This was a pattern, a culture that protected its own even when they clearly crossed the line. The morning light revealed troubling patterns about Guzman's history. In a lawsuit filed that April, another black man named Lance Downs Coington accused Guzman of pulling him over in his own neighborhood for allegedly running a stop sign. According to the lawsuit, Guzman threatened Coington with a gun and taser, slammed him to the ground, and arrested him on false charges that were eventually completely dismissed. The pattern was unmistakable. Guzman seemed to specialize in targeting black men and inventing reasons to brutalize them. The current lawsuit noted that Guzman and other officers involved had multiple complaints filed against them for excessive force and misconduct while on duty. Yet they remained employed, continued to wear the badge, kept the power to ruin more lives. As the morning light of scrutiny fell on these officers' records, a disturbing picture emerged. These weren't isolated incidents but part of a broader culture of impunity. The system designed to hold officers accountable had failed, just as it had failed McCoy and his family that night. Guzman's words to McCoy, "It's about committing crimes," took on new meaning in the morning light. If committing crimes was the standard, then the evidence suggested the real criminals wore badges and hid behind qualified immunity. Prosecutors don't typically drop charges against police officers unless the evidence of wrongdoing is overwhelming. The fact that charges against Covington were completely dismissed spoke volumes about Guzman's credibility and methods. The morning light wasn't just illuminating one bad night for one family, it was exposing systemic rot. In the clear morning light of hindsight, the most alarming aspect became apparent. The people employing these officers knew about their violent tendencies. The complaints were in their files, the lawsuits were piling up, yet they continued to let these men police the public. They had rushed at McCoy with tasers and guns drawn. The situation could have turned deadly in seconds. Yet departments continue to employ people with this kind of indiscriminate aggression, this quickness to violence. None of this should have happened because officers like Guzman should never have been policing in the first place. The screening processes failed, the training failed, the accountability measures failed. McCoy paid the price for those failures with his dignity, his hair, and his trust in the system. The hair-pulling aspect carried particular significance in the morning light. For many black people, hair represents cultural identity, heritage, and personal expression. To violently tear out someone's locks is to attack their very being, their connection to ancestors who wore similar styles as acts of resistance and pride. The lawsuit the three filed represents not just their personal trauma but the collective pain of countless black Americans who faced similar injustices. Each morning light brings new stories, new victims, new reasons for the community to wonder if things will ever truly change. Kennedy's words continue to resonate in the morning light. It could have been me. It could have been anybody. This remains the reality of being black in America, always one misunderstanding away from becoming the next victim of police brutality. As updates emerge in this case, the morning light reveals both the depth of the problem and the path forward. Until departments properly vet their officers, remove those with patterns of misconduct, and create real accountability, stories like Tim McCoy's will continue repeating with grim regularity. The conversation about police reform isn't abstract. It's about preventing real people from experiencing real trauma. It's about ensuring that family dinners don't turn into nightmares, and that walking while black doesn't remain a crime in the eyes of some officers. The morning light must eventually bring change.